Close your eyes, not to escape, but to see clearer. Before highways carved through cities, before speed became something ordinary, there was silence. A world where movement depended on muscle, where time belonged to the slow rhythm of hooves against cobblestone. But in that silence, something stirred. Not in the streets, not in the factories, but in the mind of a boy. He didn't know it yet, but he was standing at the edge of an era that had yet to begin. He wasn't drawn to the past, to the way things had always been. His thoughts moved forward, faster than the world around him. Machines fascinated him, not the kind that needed tracks to run, but the kind that could break free. He saw a future where movement wasn't bound by reins, where speed wasn't borrowed from animals, but built by human hands. His name was Carl, and this is where the journey begins. He grew up in Germany, in an era where horse-drawn carriages ruled the roads, but his mind was set on something else. Machines that could move on their own. His father, a locomotive driver, passed away when Carl was just 2, but the love for engineering ran deep in his veins. Every screw, every gear, every machine he saw fascinated him. While other children played outside, Carl would sit for hours, sketching ideas, imagining devices that could make life easier. At 15, he entered the Polytechnic School in Karlsruhe, one of the youngest students ever accepted. By 19, he had earned his mechanical engineering degree, stepping into a world that wasn't ready for his ideas. But he would change that. This wasn't just about building something new. It was about breaking the limits of what people thought was possible. With knowledge in his mind and ambition in his heart, Carl partnered with a businessman, August Ritter, to start Benz & C. In 1871, the workshop in Mannheim was small, filled with the scent of oil and metal, the sound of hammers against steel. But Carl wasn't interested in the machines everyone else was making. While others focused on improving carriages and bicycles, he had something bigger in mind, a self-propelled vehicle. Every night, long after workers had left, he would stay behind, sketching ideas, testing small models. But the road to innovation was filled with obstacles. Money was tight. Investors doubted him. Even Ritter, his own business partner, didn't believe in the project. If not for Carl's wife, Bertha, the dream might have ended there. Bertha wasn't just his supporter. She was his backbone. When Carl struggled to fund his work, she took matters into her own hands, secretly buying out Ritter's shares, giving Carl full control of the company. With renewed determination, he pushed forward, refining the design for a 3-wheeled vehicle that would soon change the world. The first time the motor wagon moved, it wasn't graceful. The engine coughed like an old man clearing his throat, its gears grinding loudly against each other. The wheels wobbled as if unsure of themselves, and the whole machine shuddered as it crawled forward. If you were there, you might have laughed. It looked nothing like the sleek machines we know today. It was awkward, noisy, and unpredictable. But Carl didn't care about how it looked. He cared about one thing. It moved. Slowly, unevenly, but it moved under its own power, without a horse pulling it. The engine rattled and clanged, filling the air with a metallic roar. Steam hissed, oil dripped, and the whole contraption felt as though it might collapse at any moment. But as it rolled forward, something extraordinary happened. People stopped to watch. At first, they stared in confusion, unsure of what they were seeing. Then came the laughter, the jokes, the scoffs. "What kind of carriage is that?" someone muttered. "It's noisy and slow. What's the point?" But there was one sound louder than the skepticism, the hum of curiosity. Children ran alongside it, their faces lit with excitement. Even the skeptics couldn't help but follow, watching the motor wagon rattle down the street. It was messy and imperfect, but it was undeniable. It worked. For Carl, this was just the beginning. He knew that the motor wagon wasn't the finished product. It was the first step, a proof that the world didn't have to stay the way it was. And in that moment, as the machine stuttered to a halt and onlookers whispered to each other, the future of transportation began to take shape. The motor wagon wasn't perfect, not by a long shot. The moment it rolled to a stop, Carl Benz stood silently, his eyes fixed on the smoking engine. His hands, blackened with oil, gripped the edge of the wooden seat. Every sound around him, the murmurs of the crowd, the faint neighing of distant horses, faded as his thoughts took over. The machine had moved, but not far enough. The engine sputtered too much. The gears didn't hold, and the fuel burned faster than he'd hoped. Each flaw was like a stone in his shoe, pressing against his mind, unrelenting. Yet, Carl wasn't defeated. He was a man who saw problems as challenges to overcome, not walls to stop him. But it wasn't just the machine fighting him. The world around him resisted too. Investors doubted his designs, colleagues questioned his obsession, and even his own resources began to dwindle. Building something entirely new was expensive, not just in money, but in time, energy, and reputation. Bertha's journey began to shift the public's perception of automobiles. Skepticism gave way to curiosity as people started imagining what it would mean to own a motorized vehicle. Carl began receiving letters, some from investors, others from curious individuals who wanted to see the motor wagon for themselves. Workshops filled with engineers tinkering with bicycles and steam engines began looking to Benz and C as a symbol of what could be achieved. The streets of Mannheim, once dominated by horses, now occasionally echoed with the sound of churning engines. It was a small shift, but it was enough to ignite a movement. The world wasn't just changing, it was accelerating. The motor wagon's success attracted its first buyers, though they were as much pioneers as Carl himself. These early adopters weren't just purchasing a vehicle, they were investing in an idea, a future that hadn't fully arrived yet. One of the first customers was a doctor, intrigued by the possibility of reaching patients faster than a horse-drawn carriage could. His motor wagon became a tool of both practicality and curiosity, drawing crowds wherever he went. Each sale brought new challenges. Buyers needed to be taught how to operate the motor wagon, which was no small task. Carl often found himself traveling to meet customers, walking them through the intricate process of starting the engine, steering, and maintaining the machine. But every sale was also a victory. With each motor wagon on the road, the idea of motorized travel moved closer to reality. By the late 1880s, Benz and Cy was no longer just a workshop. It was a company with a vision. The motor wagon had proven itself, but Carl and his team knew it was only the beginning. Improvements came rapidly. The engine grew more reliable, the design more practical. Carl listened to feedback from customers and used their experiences to refine the motor wagon. Bertha, always his partner in innovation, continued to push him forward, reminding him that every flaw was an opportunity to improve. The motor wagon became a symbol of progress, not just for Benz and C, but for the world. It was more than a machine. It was the start of a revolution, one that would redefine what it meant to move, to dream, and to build. As Carl watched his invention take its first steps into the world, he realized the motor wagon was no longer just his creation. It belonged to everyone who saw its potential, to everyone who believed in the future it promised. The roads of Germany had never seen anything like it. Wherever the motor wagon appeared, people gathered, farmers, townsfolk, children, all captivated by the growling, smoke-belching machine that seemed more alive than mechanical. It was Carl's turn to step into the spotlight. He organized public demonstrations, driving the motor wagon himself through bustling streets and quiet countryside alike. But these weren't just simple test drives. They were performances, carefully planned routes that showcased the vehicle's capabilities. Crowds murmured as the motor wagon climbed steep hills with ease, its wheels crunching over gravel roads that no carriage would dare attempt. Onlookers stood in awe as it sped past, faster than any horse-drawn carriage, its engine singing a metallic symphony. These demonstrations weren't just about selling cars. They were about shifting perspectives. Carl wasn't trying to replace the horse. He was introducing the world to a new era. Demand for the motor wagon grew, and Carl realized his small workshop couldn't keep up. The time had come to take a leap of faith, to build a factory dedicated solely to automobiles. The factory wasn't just a building, it was a symbol of ambition. Inside its walls, Carl and his growing team of engineers streamlined the production process, inventing new tools and techniques to meet the growing demand. The air was thick with the smell of oil and metal, the rhythmic clanging of hammers punctuated by the hiss of steam-powered machinery. Each motor wagon that left the factory floor carried with it the dreams of its creators. And as production increased, so did innovation. Carl began experimenting with new materials, lighter frames, and more powerful engines. The motor wagon was evolving, and so was the company. The 1890s brought a new chapter, not just for Benz and C, but for the entire automotive world. Across Germany, another visionary, Gottlieb Daimler, was making waves with his own innovations in motorized vehicles. Daimler's approach was bold. He envisioned cars that weren't just functional, but beautiful, powerful machines that could ignite the imagination. His engines were smaller, faster, and more efficient, earning him a reputation as a pioneer in performance. The paths of Benz and Daimler would remain separate for now, but the seeds of their eventual partnership were being sown. Competition pushed both men to innovate, their friendly rivalry driving the industry forward at an unprecedented pace. Meanwhile, Carl's motor wagon continued to improve. By the late 1890s, the word Mercedes began to emerge, a name tied to Emil Jelinek, a businessman who believed the future of automobiles lay in speed, luxury, and elegance. Cars weren't just tools for travel anymore. They were becoming instruments of competition. The world's first automobile race, held in 1894, became the ultimate proving ground. Carl's team entered the race with a modified motor wagon, its engine tuned for performance. The competition was fierce. Vehicles of every shape and size roared down the muddy roads, their drivers braving mechanical failures, unpredictable weather, and the sheer chaos of the event. The race wasn't just about speed, it was about reliability. Each vehicle had to prove it could endure the rigors of the road. Though Benz didn't win, the motor wagon's performance impressed both spectators and competitors, solidifying its reputation as a machine built to last. This race marked the beginning of a new era. Automobiles weren't just practical, they were exciting. And the thrill of competition would drive innovation for decades to come. By the dawn of the 20th century, the motor wagon had evolved from a fragile prototype to a symbol of progress. Benz and Cie was no longer just a workshop. It was a thriving company with a global presence. But Carl's vision didn't end with the motor wagon. He dreamed of a world where automobiles weren't just for the wealthy, but for everyone. He imagined cities where roads buzzed with cars of every shape and size, connecting people, businesses, and ideas like never before. Meanwhile, Daimler was pursuing his own vision. Cars that pushed the boundaries of speed and performance. Though their paths hadn't yet crossed, the merger of their ideas was inevitable. Together, they would create something greater than either could achieve alone. As the century turned, the foundation for Mercedes-Benz was set. It wasn't just about engineering anymore. It was about legacy. A legacy that would inspire generations of car enthusiasts, engineers, and dreamers. Before their names became intertwined, Carl Benz and Gottlieb Daimler walked parallel paths, each driven by a relentless curiosity about the future of transportation. While Carl worked tirelessly to refine his motor wagon, Gottlieb was crafting his own innovations, lighter engines that seemed to hum with boundless potential. In workshops, worlds apart, the two men shaped the future, though they likely never imagined their legacies would one day converge. Carl's focus was precision, a meticulous eye for detail that brought mechanical dreams to life. Gottlieb, on the other hand, pursued speed and power, his designs daring the laws of engineering. You see, their work wasn't born in isolation. The industrial world was changing faster than ever. Electricity illuminating cities, steam engines driving factories, and the promise of the internal combustion engine igniting imaginations everywhere. It was an era of experimentation, but it was also one of competition. Neither Benz nor Daimler worked without struggle. Both faced setbacks, critics, and technical obstacles, but their dedication never faltered. And as their innovations began to ripple across Germany, their parallel roads inched closer. While Carl Benz was cementing his legacy with the motor wagon, Gottlieb Daimler and his brilliant collaborator Wilhelm Maybach were building their own empire. In 1890, they founded Daimler Motorengesellschaft, DMG, a company that would forever change the way the world thought about automobiles. The DMG workshop was alive with invention. Daimler's grandfather clock engine, a compact, efficient design, was a marvel of its time, capable of powering everything from boats to cars. Together, Daimler and Maybach envisioned vehicles that weren't just functional, but exhilarating to drive. Their first creation, the Daimler Stahlradwagen steel wheel car, rolled out onto the streets with a roar, its engine delivering unheard-of speeds. It wasn't just a car, it was a challenge to every carriage, every train, and every limitation of the day. But the Stahlradwagen wasn't enough for Daimler and Maybach. They believed the future demanded more than practicality. It demanded elegance, reliability, and power in equal measure. And so, their pursuit of perfection continued. Meanwhile, whispers of Benz's Motorwagen were spreading. Though their companies were rivals, there was mutual respect. Both knew they were crafting history, even if they didn't yet know how intertwined that history would become. The early days of Daimler Motorengesellschaft, DMG, weren't just shaped by Gottlieb Daimler's vision. They were brought to life by the genius of Wilhelm Maybach. While Daimler dreamed, Maybach built. He was the silent architect behind every engine, every sketch, and every bolt. When he met Gottlieb Daimler, the chemistry between them was immediate. While Daimler had the charisma and ambition, Maybach was the quiet, analytical force who turned dreams into reality. Together, they envisioned engines that could transform the way humans moved. Maybach's crowning achievement in those early years was the grandfather clock engine, a compact, high-speed, internal combustion engine that would become the heartbeat of their vehicles. Its name came from its upright design, resembling the pendulum clock in many German households. But its significance went beyond its appearance. This engine could fit in anything: boats, cars, or even airships. It wasn't just a breakthrough. It was a declaration that the future had arrived. You see, Maybach didn't chase fame or recognition. His philosophy was simple. Every innovation must serve a purpose. He pursued engineering, not for its own sake, but for what it could achieve. This relentless drive for better technology earned him the nickname King of Designers. With Maybach's brilliance, Daimler's vision took form, and the foundation of DMG was firmly set. But brilliance alone doesn't guarantee success. As DMG grew, it faced challenges that threatened to crush its aspirations. The late 19th century wasn't an easy time to introduce radical ideas like motorized vehicles. The industrial world thrived on steam and horse-drawn carriages, and the public viewed automobiles as noisy, dangerous, and unnecessary. Investors, too, were skeptical. Machines were expensive to build, and the market for motorized vehicles was unproven. Daimler and Maybach found themselves caught in a cycle of innovation without enough resources to sustain it. They poured their energy into perfecting their engines, but convincing financiers required more than technical brilliance. It required persistence. One of their solutions was to partner with established carriage manufacturers. These partnerships allowed them to integrate their engines into existing horse-drawn designs, creating motor carriages. These hybrids didn't look revolutionary, but they proved that motorized vehicles could work and that they had potential. Yet, setbacks were frequent. Engines overheated, designs failed, and funds ran out. Daimler and Maybach were forced to work long hours in their workshops, refining their designs over and over. Every failure was a lesson, and every challenge pushed them closer to their ultimate goal. Despite the struggles, the pair refused to abandon their vision. They believed that the world would one day embrace the idea of a personal, motorized vehicle, a belief that sustained them through the darkest days of DMG's early history. Their persistence paid off when their innovations began catching the eye of entrepreneurs like Emil Jelinek, who would later play a pivotal role in transforming DMG into a global name. But before that success, Daimler and Maybach learned an invaluable lesson. True progress demands resilience. By the dawn of the 1890s, the ideas of Gottlieb Daimler and Wilhelm Maybach began to move from workshops into reality. Their machines, particularly the Stahlradwagen, or steel-wheeled carriage, were not just engineering exercises. They were the prototypes of a new kind of transportation. The Stahlradwagen, though still primitive by modern standards, was a leap forward. It combined Daimler's powerful, high-speed engine with Maybach's innovative chassis designs, resulting in a vehicle capable of achieving speeds that startled onlookers. Its steel wheels and robust construction gave it a distinctive look, but its real value was in how it pushed the boundaries of reliability and performance. You see, in these early years, speed was as much about perception as it was about numbers. A car moving at 16 kilometers per hour seemed astonishing in an era when most people were accustomed to the slow trot of horse-drawn carriages. But Daimler and Maybach didn't stop at speed. They also wanted their vehicles to endure. Every prototype was tested relentlessly on the rugged streets of Germany. Each refinement a step closer to a future where motorized vehicles could replace horses. As Daimler and Maybach advanced, Carl Benz, on a parallel path, was refining his own motorcar designs. While Benz prioritized simplicity and practicality, Daimler and Maybach pursued power and versatility. Their machines often found themselves competing, not officially, but on the streets. Towns across Europe whispered stories of drivers racing Benz's three-wheeled creations against Daimler's four-wheeled carriages. Each machine represented a different philosophy, but both inspired awe in onlookers. The evolution of these vehicles didn't just shift perceptions of speed and mobility. It introduced the idea that owning a motorized vehicle was a mark of status. Wealthy industrialists and aristocrats began commissioning custom-built vehicles, signaling the birth of the automobile as more than just a utility. It was becoming an emblem of ambition and luxury. But the story of Mercedes was about to take a turn, driven by a man who saw something more in these machines than just engineering feats. Emil Jelinek, a visionary businessman with a flair for innovation, entered the scene in the late 1890s. Jelinek wasn't just a businessman. He was a man of ambition and charisma, with a passion for speed. Living in the French Riviera, he moved in elite circles where automobiles weren't just machines. They were statements. He saw the growing potential of Daimler and Maybach's creations. And unlike many, he understood that these vehicles needed more than technical excellence. They needed an identity. When Jelinek approached DMG, he wasn't just a customer. He was a partner with a vision. He believed that the future of the automobile lay in branding it as a symbol of elegance, speed, and exclusivity. He began selling DMG vehicles to his wealthy clients, but with one condition. They had to reflect his standards of performance and luxury. Jelinek didn't just want vehicles, he wanted masterpieces. In 1901, his influence led to the creation of a groundbreaking car, the Mercedes 35 HP. The name wasn't chosen randomly. Jelinek insisted on naming the car after his daughter Mercedes, whose name carried an air of refinement and sophistication. It wasn't just a car, it was the beginning of a brand identity that would dominate the world stage. Jelinek's belief in luxury and speed wasn't merely a business strategy, it was a cultural shift. By branding the car with a human name, he gave it personality and soul, something no other automobile had at the time. The Mercedes 35 HP wasn't just admired for its engineering, it was desired. This partnership between DMG and Jelinek would shape the company's trajectory. Daimler and Maybach brought the innovation, but Jelinek gave the brand its spirit. Together, they laid the foundation for what would become one of the most recognizable names in automotive history. By the early 20th century, the idea of motorized vehicles was beginning to spread across borders, breaking free from its European origins. While cars were still seen as luxuries for the elite, interest was growing far beyond Germany. Wealthy individuals in England, France, and even the United States began to demand these new machines that promised independence and speed. For both Benz and Psy and DMG, the opportunity was undeniable, but so were the challenges. Carl Benz, ever the pragmatist, saw this expansion as a chance to bring his reliable and affordable vehicles to new audiences. His Benz Velo, already popular in Germany, became one of the first motor cars to be exported internationally. Lightweight and easy to maintain, it appealed to middle-class buyers eager to embrace modernity without the complexity of high-performance machines. Yet, exporting cars was not as simple as shipping parts. Roads, fuel, and even public perception varied wildly from country to country. At the same time, DMG, under Daimler and Maybach's engineering leadership, sought to capture the imagination of the upper class abroad. Their Mercedes models, with their blend of elegance and power, found eager buyers on the French Riviera and in British aristocratic circles. The company leaned into the narrative of exclusivity, ensuring that owning a Mercedes meant more than having a car. It meant having the best. Scaling production to meet this international demand wasn't without its difficulties. Factories, still in their infancy, lacked the efficiency of modern assembly lines. Each car was almost a handcrafted masterpiece, making production slow and expensive. Both companies faced the balancing act of meeting growing demand while maintaining their reputations for quality and innovation. The market's expansion also brought logistical challenges. How to transport finished vehicles across vast distances, how to educate buyers on operating and maintaining them, and how to establish networks of dealerships and service centers. It was uncharted territory, but every shipment to a new country planted the seeds for what would become a global industry. Despite the growing international interest in motor cars, the industry was still small enough that its pioneers often crossed paths. And at the heart of this burgeoning world were two names, Carl Benz and Gottlieb Daimler. Although Benz and Daimler never met in person, their reputations loomed large in each other's lives. They were rivals not in a cutthroat sense, but as craftsmen driven to outdo one another. Benz, with his focus on practicality and reliability, kept a watchful eye on Daimler and Maybach's extravagant designs. Meanwhile, Daimler, known for his ambition and daring, acknowledged the steadfastness of Benz's approach. This rivalry, however, wasn't hostile. It was a mutual push toward progress. each innovation by one company spurred the other to go further. When DMG introduced faster, more powerful engines, Benz responded by refining his cars for durability and ease of use. When Benz expanded his reach into international markets, DMG worked to make their vehicles even more exclusive and desirable. Their competition wasn't limited to technology, it extended to the roads. Early motorcar exhibitions, races, and public demonstrations became the battlegrounds where their machines clashed. Crowds gathered to watch these spectacles, where Benz's reliable vehicles would often face off against DMG's speed demons. Yet, even as rivals, they shared a deep respect for the enormity of what they were creating. A future where motorcars would become indispensable to human life. Behind the scenes, whispers began to grow. The industry was becoming too demanding, too complex for companies to stand alone. Some speculated that Benz and Daimler's companies might one day join forces, pooling their resources to dominate the automotive world. But for now, the rivalry burned brightly, pushing both sides to reach heights neither might have achieved alone. As the world teetered on the edge of war in 1914, the automobile industry was thrust into a role it had never anticipated. For Benz and DMG, the demands of World War I changed everything. Suddenly, their focus shifted from crafting vehicles for the wealthy to meeting the logistical needs of an unprecedented global conflict. Benz's factories, once dedicated to producing reliable motor cars for families and businesses, were repurposed for the war effort. Engines, transport vehicles, and even aircraft components began to roll off the assembly lines. Similarly, DMG turned its attention to military innovation, developing engines for planes and lightweight vehicles for moving troops and supplies across rugged terrain. Wartime necessity drove engineering breakthroughs at an astonishing pace. Engines became more efficient, durable, and powerful, qualities born not from leisurely innovation, but from survival. Every design had to endure the brutal conditions of war, mud-choked battlefields, freezing winters, and the relentless strain of daily use. But the war came with severe costs. Factories struggled to secure raw materials, and financial pressures mounted. Skilled workers were called to the front lines, leaving companies to train replacements under immense time constraints. Despite these challenges, both Benz and DMG found ways to endure, knowing their survival would depend on their ability to adapt. For Carl Benz, now an elder statesman of the industry, the war was a bittersweet chapter. His vision of a peaceful world transformed by mobility was overshadowed by the sight of his inventions being used in conflict. Yet, the lessons learned during these years would profoundly shape the post-war automobile industry. The demand for rugged, reliable vehicles had been proven, and the technological strides made under duress would pave the way for new possibilities in civilian life. When the war finally ended, the world was left to pick up the pieces. For Benz and DMG, returning to peacetime production wasn't as simple as flipping a switch. The German economy was in tatters, ravaged by reparations and hyperinflation. Factories that had been repurposed for war production had to be retooled, workers retrained, and public trust rebuilt. Benz returned to his principles of reliability and affordability, focusing on producing practical vehicles for a society struggling to recover. DMG, meanwhile, leaned into the allure of luxury and performance, seeing an opportunity to cater to those seeking symbols of success in a fractured world. It was a delicate balancing act, addressing the needs of the average person while continuing to push the boundaries of engineering. Despite the challenges, the 1920s marked a turning point. As economies stabilized, a new sense of optimism swept across Europe and beyond. Cars, once seen as extravagant toys for the elite, began to enter the mainstream. Roads improved, fuel stations became more widespread, and driving itself transformed into a cultural phenomenon. For DMG, this era solidified the Mercedes name as a symbol of elegance and prestige. Their vehicles, sleek and powerful, graced the streets of Paris, Berlin, and London, drawing admiration wherever they went. Benz, too, found renewed success, appealing to a growing middle class eager for mobility. The competition between the two companies continued to drive innovation, from more efficient engines to groundbreaking designs that hinted at the future of automobiles. It was during this time that whispers of collaboration grew louder. The challenges of a competitive market, coupled with the lingering effects of the war, made it clear that neither Benz nor DMG could thrive alone forever. The seeds of something greater were being planted, even as the two companies continued to blaze their separate trails. By the 1920s, the automotive landscape was no longer the uncharted frontier it had been decades earlier. The industry was expanding rapidly. Competition was fierce, and the aftermath of World War I had left Germany's economy gasping for air. Both Benz and DMG, pioneers who had once defined the future, now faced an uncomfortable reality. Alone, they could only tread water, but together, they might just sail into uncharted waters again. The struggles weren't just financial. Scaling production to meet demand while maintaining innovation required resources neither company could muster on their own. Benz and had mastered reliability and practicality, carving a niche with cars that appealed to a growing middle class. DMG, meanwhile, had honed luxury and performance, with the Mercedes name already earning whispers of admiration in elite circles. But their individual strengths weren't enough. Rivals both at home and abroad, Fiat, Renault, Ford, were advancing rapidly. Talks of collaboration began tentatively, like dancers circling each other on an unfamiliar floor. Carl Benz had retired by this point, but his legacy loomed large over the discussions, a reminder of the monumental task ahead. The leaders at Benz and DMG saw more than a merger of necessity. They saw a chance to create something greater than the sum of their parts. But aligning two distinct philosophies wasn't simple. Benz, grounded in affordability and engineering practicality, would need to coexist with the grandeur and cutting-edge ambitions of DMG. Every detail, from organizational structure to branding, required careful negotiation. Yet, there was a shared belief driving them forward. The automobile wasn't just a product. It was a symbol of progress, of human ingenuity, overcoming limits. As Germany began to rebuild its industries in the mid-1920s, the two companies formalized their discussions. They understood that survival wasn't about holding on to past glories, but about crafting a future together. The leaders saw this not just as a business strategy, but as an opportunity to redefine what a car could mean in a post-war world. a blending of utility, luxury, and innovation. Therefore, on a quiet day in 1926, Benz NC and DMG agreed to unite, setting the stage for a legacy that would outshine anything they had achieved individually. When the ink dried on the merger, the world was introduced to a new name, Mercedes-Benz. The union brought together two titans whose combined expertise would set the benchmark for the automotive world. But beyond the legal documents and handshakes, this moment symbolized a turning point, an era where opposites didn't just coexist, they thrived together. The three-pointed star, already used by DMG, was chosen as the logo for the new brand. Its points symbolized domination over land, sea, and air, a fitting aspiration for a company that sought to engineer not just cars, but dreams. Paired with the name Mercedes-Benz, it was a marriage of elegance and engineering that resonated with car enthusiasts and dreamers alike. Their first offering under the new name, the Mercedes-Benz 838, carried the weight of two legacies. Its refined design and dependable engine weren't just a product of collaboration. They were a declaration that the brand was ready to lead. Every detail, from its sleek frame to its smooth performance, reflected the blending of Benz's practicality with DMG's flair for innovation. The reception was immediate and electric. Buyers weren't simply purchasing cars, they were buying into a vision of the future. Mercedes-Benz quickly became a name synonymous with both luxury and reliability, a reputation carefully nurtured through craftsmanship and innovation. But success didn't mean complacency. The engineers behind the new brand saw the merger as the beginning of a new challenge, to craft vehicles that weren't just admired but unforgettable. They sought to push boundaries, faster engines, more durable designs, and technology that felt ahead of its time. As Europe embraced its post-war revival, the roads began to hum with the sound of Mercedes-Benz vehicles, their three-pointed stars gleaming under the sunlight. The brand wasn't merely filling streets, it was shaping a culture of elegance and aspiration. And so, what began as a practical decision in the face of adversity became the birth of an icon. Proof that innovation and resilience, when combined, could create something timeless. The roads of the late 1920s began to change as Mercedes-Benz vehicles became a symbol of sophistication and aspiration. For car enthusiasts, the brand was more than a manufacturer. It was an artist shaping how the future would move. But the ambitions of Mercedes-Benz didn't stop at creating cars. They sought to transform the very concept of luxury and performance. Their engineers embraced a philosophy that combined form and function, treating each model as a masterpiece of mechanical art. Take, for instance, the S-Series, introduced in 1928. With its elongated hood, aerodynamic design, and a roaring 6.8-liter supercharged engine, it wasn't merely built for transport. It embodied speed, elegance, and prestige in every curve. Enthusiasts admired its open-top frame, which let the wind whip through as the engine thundered across roads. It wasn't just about getting there. It was about the thrill of the journey. But beneath this beauty lay a relentless pursuit of technical superiority. Innovations like independent suspension ensured smoother rides, while supercharging technology gave an unmistakable burst of power. These weren't simply features. They became hallmarks of the Mercedes-Benz experience, defining how luxury and performance could coexist. At the same time, the company knew that their cars had to carry an emotional resonance. Driving a Mercedes-Benz wasn't just about horsepower or polished wood interiors. It was about the feeling of conquering the road, of becoming part of something larger. It was a brand built to inspire dreams, whether you were cruising through European countryside or racing against the clock. This philosophy gained traction among an international clientele, from affluent families to racing legends who sought machines that could defy the limits of speed and style. By blending artistry and engineering, Mercedes-Benz not only captured imaginations, they redefined what the automotive world could aspire to create. Speed had always been a fascination for Mercedes-Benz, but the late 1920s marked the moment they turned the road into a stage and motorsport into their proving ground. It wasn't merely about showing off, it was about testing the limits of what their machines could achieve. The Mercedes-Benz SSK, introduced in 1928, became a legend on racetracks almost overnight. Designed by Ferdinand Porsche, the SSK combined raw power with precision handling. With its supercharged engine producing up to 300 horsepower, it roared past competitors with an almost primal energy. Fans lined up to see its unmistakable silhouette slicing through sharp turns and dominating straightaways. The company didn't just enter races, they excelled. Victories at events like the Mille Miglia and German Grand Prix weren't just trophies. They were milestones, each win cementing the brand's reputation as a force in both engineering and speed. But motorsport wasn't without its risks. Every race was a gamble, where triumph and disaster were separated by a fraction of a second. And yet, these risks were essential. They pushed the engineers and drivers to innovate, to push beyond what had seemed possible. The SSK's lightweight frame, the careful balance of its chassis, and the fine-tuned responsiveness of its controls were all born from this relentless pursuit. For Mercedes-Benz, motorsports were never just about winning. They were a laboratory, a place to experiment, refine, and create technologies that would eventually trickle down to production vehicles. This commitment to excellence ensured that every car bearing the three-pointed star carried the DNA of a champion. As the brand grew, so did its connection with motorsport legends. Drivers like Rudolf Caracciola, known as the Rainmaster for his unmatched skills on wet tracks, became synonymous with the Mercedes-Benz name. Together, they turned victories into stories that inspired fans across the globe. By the dawn of the 1930s, Mercedes-Benz had established itself as not just a creator of fine automobiles, but as a symbol of speed, luxury, and unyielding ambition. Their cars weren't just on the road, they were in the hearts of everyone who dreamed of excellence. The 1930s brought both opportunities and challenges for Mercedes-Benz. As the world faced economic struggles, the automotive industry needed resilience and creativity to survive. For Mercedes-Benz, this wasn't a time to retreat. It was a time to innovate and dominate. On the road and the racetrack, their focus sharpened, leading to the birth of the legendary Silver Arrows. In 1934, at the Eiffelrennen race, Mercedes engineers famously scraped the white paint off their car to meet weight requirements, revealing the raw silver of its aluminum body. That single act became a defining moment. The sleek, unpainted cars, glinting in the sunlight, embodied both efficiency and elegance. The W25, The first true Silver Arrow was a masterpiece of engineering. With its 354 horsepower engine, it was a missile on wheels, capable of reaching speeds over 100. Drivers like Rudolf Caracciola and Manfred von Brauchitsch piloted these cars to stunning victories, dominating European Grand Prix circuits. Each race was a spectacle, with crowds cheering as the Silver Arrows streaked past in a blur of speed and power. But this era wasn't just about racing. The same ingenuity that went into the Silver Arrows also drove advancements in passenger vehicles. Mercedes-Benz introduced models like the 500K and 770 Grosser, which combined luxury with cutting-edge technology. These weren't just cars. They were statements of refinement and capability designed to withstand the trials of an unpredictable world. Even as global tensions rose, Mercedes-Benz pushed the boundaries of what cars could achieve, ensuring their legacy would endure regardless of the challenges ahead. The Silver Arrows became more than just race cars. They were symbols of ambition, ingenuity, and resilience. The onset of World War II brought dramatic changes to the automotive landscape, and Mercedes-Benz was no exception. Like many manufacturers, they were drawn into wartime production, shifting focus from passenger cars to vehicles and machinery for military use. Factories that once buzzed with innovation now echoed with the urgency of a world in turmoil. The war tested the resilience of the company and its people. Factories were heavily damaged during air raids, and the end of the conflict left Germany in ruins. For Mercedes-Benz, survival required not only rebuilding, but reimagining their future. Amid this devastation, there was a flicker of hope. Engineers who had once crafted groundbreaking vehicles returned to their blueprints, determined to revive the brand. The post-war years saw the emergence of models like the 170V, which became a lifeline for Mercedes-Benz. It was a modest, reliable car that symbolized the company's commitment to starting anew. But the recovery wasn't without its difficulties. Materials were scarce, and the reputation of German industry was under scrutiny. Mercedes-Benz had to prove itself not just as a manufacturer, but as a company capable of creating vehicles that could inspire trust and admiration once more. Their determination paid off. By the late 1940s, the company began to rebuild its image, focusing on quality and innovation. Mercedes-Benz wasn't merely returning to its roots. It was planting seeds for a future defined by excellence and global impact. The resilience of this period set the stage for a renaissance that would redefine the brand in the decades to come. Mercedes-Benz had weathered the storm, emerging stronger and more determined than ever to lead the automotive world. The 1950s marked the dawn of a new era for Mercedes-Benz, as the brand emerged from the ashes of war to redefine its identity. It wasn't just about rebuilding factories. It was about restoring the world's faith in German engineering and showing that greatness could rise again, even after immense adversity. At the heart of this rebirth was the 300 SL Gullwing, introduced in 1954. Its iconic upward-swinging doors weren't simply a design statement. They were a necessity due to its lightweight tubular frame. Yet they became a global symbol of sophistication and innovation. Beneath the surface, the 300 SL roared with a direct fuel injection engine, borrowed from aviation technology, allowing it to become the fastest production car of its time. This wasn't just a car, it was a revolution on wheels. Alongside the 300 SL, Mercedes-Benz debuted the 190 SL, a roadster that paired elegance with accessibility. These two models worked in harmony. The 300 SL captured the imagination of enthusiasts, while the 190 SL opened the brand's luxury to a broader audience. Together, they turned heads from Beverly Hills to Monte Carlo, cementing Mercedes-Benz as a symbol of success and aspiration. But their renaissance wasn't limited to passenger cars. The company's return to motorsport was equally triumphant. The Silver Arrows were reborn, and the brand dominated events like the 24 Hours of Le Mans and Formula One. Legendary drivers like Juan Manuel Fangio piloted Mercedes-Benz machines to victory, each win solidifying the brand's status as an engineering powerhouse. The 1950s were more than just a comeback. They were a statement. Mercedes-Benz wasn't content with reclaiming its place. It was determined to set the standard for what the future of automobiles could achieve. By the 1960s, Mercedes-Benz wasn't just a German brand, it was a global phenomenon. The three-pointed star became synonymous with innovation, reliability, and luxury, recognized in every corner of the world. Key to this success was the company's ability to anticipate and adapt to the needs of its diverse clientele. The introduction of the Mercedes-Benz W110 fin-tail sedans combined practicality with advanced safety features like crumple zones, paving the way for modern automotive safety standards. These weren't just innovations, they were commitments to protecting lives. Luxury continued to evolve with the debut of the S-Class, the pinnacle of refinement and technology. The S-Class wasn't simply a car, it was a rolling laboratory, showcasing groundbreaking features like anti-lock brakes, ABS, air suspension, and climate control. Every detail was meticulously crafted, ensuring that passengers experienced unparalleled comfort and control. Meanwhile, Mercedes-Benz extended its reach into diverse markets. From the rugged G-Class, originally designed for military use but embraced by adventurers and celebrities alike, to heavy-duty commercial vehicles and buses, the brand's portfolio became as varied as its audience. And yet, Mercedes-Benz never lost its focus on motorsport. The return of the AMG division, specializing in high-performance tuning, brought an adrenaline-fueled edge to the brand. AMG cars weren't just fast, they were thrilling, blending precision engineering with raw power to dominate both the track and the road. By the late 20th century, Mercedes-Benz had achieved what few brands could, a perfect balance of heritage and innovation. Whether cruising down a city boulevard or conquering the grueling Dakar Rally, every Mercedes-Benz told a story of excellence, resilience, and ambition. The three-pointed star wasn't just a badge, it was a beacon, lighting the way for the automotive world to follow. In the 1970s, Mercedes-Benz embraced a new mission: to make driving not just a luxury, but a safer experience for everyone. Roads were becoming more crowded, accidents more frequent, and the brand saw an opportunity to lead the charge in protecting lives. This wasn't about meeting regulations, it was about rewriting them. It began with crumple zones, an idea pioneered by Mercedes-Benz engineer Bella Baregni Imagine standing at the edge of a bustling highway, watching as a car crashes. You expect devastation, but the front collapses methodically, absorbing the impact, leaving the passenger compartment remarkably intact. Baroni's vision became the blueprint for modern automotive safety, ensuring that vehicles protected people, not just moved them. Then came anti-lock braking systems, introduced in the 1978 Mercedes-Benz W116 S-Class. Picture the chaos of a sudden rainstorm, the roads slick, and the brakes locking as tires skidded helplessly. ABS changed this story entirely, letting drivers maintain control even under emergency braking. It wasn't just an innovation, it was a lifeline. Safety wasn't confined to technology. Mercedes-Benz also reimagined comfort as a form of protection. Ergonomic seats reduced fatigue on long journeys, while cabin designs focused on visibility, shielding drivers from blind spots. Every decision was deliberate, down to the smallest stitch in the upholstery. By the time the 1980s rolled around, the brand wasn't just selling cars, it was selling peace of mind. Buyers knew that with a Mercedes-Benz, they weren't simply purchasing luxury, they were investing in their family's safety. As the world marched into the 1980s, Mercedes-Benz realized that standing alone in an evolving industry wasn't enough. The automotive landscape was shifting rapidly. Globalization, environmental concerns, and a hunger for innovation meant that partnerships would be the key to survival and success. Enter the collaboration with AMG, a small but ambitious tuning company. Picture the contrast. Mercedes, the polished luxury brand, and AMG, a group of high-performance rebels pushing cars to their limits. Their partnership began with motorsport, but soon AMG's expertise spilled over into the road cars. The result? Machines like the Mercedes-Benz C36 AMG, a sedan that roared like a beast yet carried the refinement of a gentleman. Collaboration didn't stop there. The 1990s also saw Mercedes-Benz team up with Chrysler to form Daimler Chrysler. It was a bold move, bringing together German precision and American ambition. Though the merger faced challenges, it showed the brand's willingness to adapt and innovate on a global scale. And while partnerships brought growth, Mercedes-Benz stayed true to its roots. Engineers continued working tirelessly in Stuttgart, perfecting technologies like the PRE Safer system, which prepared passengers for impacts before they happened. It was as if the car could sense danger before the driver even noticed, reinforcing the brand's reputation as a pioneer. By the end of the decade, Mercedes-Benz had proven one thing. Collaboration wasn't about diluting identity, it was about multiplying potential. Together with their partners, they built a bridge to the future of automotive excellence. The dawn of the 21st century brought with it a growing urgency, the need to address environmental concerns. For Mercedes-Benz, this wasn't a question of whether to adapt, but how to lead the charge toward a more sustainable future. The early 2000s saw the unveiling of the Blue Tear diesel technology, a marvel of engineering that promised cleaner emissions without sacrificing performance. Picture the hum of a Mercedes-Benz gliding down a highway, emitting significantly reduced pollutants compared to its predecessors. It wasn't merely an upgrade, it was a statement that luxury and environmental responsibility could coexist. Next came the development of hybrid powertrains, starting with models like the S400 Hybrid. Imagine the blend of silence and strength as an electric motor worked seamlessly alongside a petrol engine, delivering the performance Mercedes was known for while conserving fuel. This wasn't just innovation, it was foresight. In their pursuit of sustainability, Mercedes also invested heavily in materials and manufacturing. Factories began integrating renewable energy sources, while vehicles were designed with more recyclable components than ever before. Walking through a Mercedes-Benz plant in Sindelfingen, you'd witness solar panels glinting on rooftops, robots crafting vehicles with precision, and engineers pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Yet, sustainability wasn't just about the present. It was a commitment to the future. With the EQ lineup, Mercedes entered the electric revolution, creating vehicles like the EQC that paired cutting-edge battery technology with the elegance and comfort expected from the brand. For Mercedes-Benz, sustainability wasn't a trend, it was a promise. As the 2010s unfolded, the world stood on the brink of a mobility revolution. The question was no longer about who made the fastest or most luxurious cars. It was about who could redefine what driving even meant. For Mercedes-Benz, the answer lay in autonomy. Their journey began with the F015 Luxury in Motion concept, unveiled in 2015. Imagine a vehicle where the traditional boundaries between driver and passenger faded. Its sleek exterior, punctuated by LED lights, gave way to an interior that felt more like a living room than a car. Passengers could face each other, surrounded by screens that responded to touch and gesture. But this wasn't just a vision, it was a roadmap. Mercedes-Benz introduced Distronic, a radar-based system that allowed vehicles to maintain speed and distance autonomously. The E-Class became the first semi-autonomous production car, confidently navigating highways while the driver supervised. The brand's focus wasn't solely on technology, it was on trust. Engineers tested these systems tirelessly, simulating countless real-world scenarios to ensure safety. Walking into the Mercedes testing grounds in Emmendingen, you'd witness cars driving themselves through rain, snow, and blinding sunlight, learning and adapting with every trial. Autonomy wasn't just about convenience. It was about redefining freedom. For the elderly, the disabled, or anyone dreaming of stress-free travel, Mercedes-Benz was crafting a future where mobility knew no limits. By the early 2000s, Mercedes-Benz had already mastered the art of luxury. But the name Maybach was about to redefine what luxury truly meant. Resurrecting a brand steeped in history, Mercedes-Benz set out to craft vehicles that wouldn't just compete in the luxury segment. They dominated. The Maybach 57 and 62, introduced in 2002, were more than just cars. Imagine stepping into a rolling palace, where every detail was designed to pamper. Hand-stitched leather, reclining rear seats with massagers, and champagne coolers, all surrounded by the silent hum of a meticulously engineered engine. These cars weren't simply for transportation, they were for royalty, heads of state, and those who sought the pinnacle of exclusivity. Maybach's re-entry wasn't without challenges. Critics questioned whether ultra-luxury sedans could thrive in a changing world. But Mercedes-Benz knew that true luxury wasn't about trends, it was about timelessness. Fast forward to the 2010s, and the Mercedes-Maybach S-Class emerged as a masterpiece, combining the heritage of Maybach with the modern engineering of Mercedes-Benz. Walking into a Maybach showroom felt more like entering a gallery than a dealership. The scent of fine leather, the gleam of polished wood, and the whisper of exclusivity hung in the air. With every Maybach sold, Mercedes-Benz sent a message. Luxury wasn't just about features. It was about creating an experience so unforgettable, it became part of a legacy. The transition to electrification wasn't merely a technological leap for Mercedes-Benz, it was a philosophical one. The brand's EQ lineup wasn't just about building electric cars. It was about reimagining the very essence of what mobility could be in a world driven by sustainability. The first major step came with the EQC, an all-electric SUV that married cutting-edge battery technology with the luxury and performance expected of the three-pointed star. Picture gliding down the highway in near silence, the hum of the electric motor barely audible as the vehicle accelerated effortlessly. It wasn't just a car, it was a vision of what the future could feel like. Mercedes-Benz didn't stop at vehicles. Charging infrastructure became a priority, with the brand partnering globally to create Mercedes Me Charge, a network that promised convenience for its electric drivers. The world of charging was complex, but Mercedes aimed to make it seamless, ensuring customers could travel with confidence. Inside the vehicles, the technology felt almost alive. The MBUX hyperscreen, spanning the dashboard, responded intuitively to touch, voice, and even gestures. Driving became less about mechanics and more about an intelligent relationship between car and driver. As the Vision EQXX concept car teased a 1,000-kilometer range on a single charge, Mercedes-Benz proved that sustainability and innovation weren't limits. They were opportunities to push boundaries even further. For Mercedes-Benz, safety wasn't a feature, it was a foundation. Since the early days of Carl Benz's Motorwagen, the quest for creating safer vehicles had been a relentless pursuit. But it was the post-war era that saw Mercedes-Benz evolve into a true safety pioneer. The 1950s introduced the crumple zone, developed by engineer Bela Baregni. Imagine a car that didn't resist collisions outright, but instead absorbed and redistributed the impact to protect its occupants. At the time, it was a revolutionary idea, one that saved countless lives. Then came the airbag, an invention that became synonymous with Mercedes-Benz. While the idea of cushioning drivers and passengers during accidents might seem obvious today, it was Mercedes-Benz that rigorously tested and perfected the technology in the 1980s, setting a new standard for the industry. Walking into a Mercedes-Benz crash testing facility, you'd witness vehicles being slammed into barriers at high speeds. Every crash, every shattered windshield, and every crumpled door became a lesson in how to save lives. The sound of metal twisting and glass breaking wasn't just noise, it was the echo of progress. Modern safety innovations like Active Brake Assist, Pre-Safe R, and Distronic Plus continued this tradition. Imagine a car that could sense an impending collision and prepare itself. Tightening seatbelts, adjusting headrests, even closing windows, all before impact. For Mercedes-Benz, safety wasn't an option, it was a promise. While Mercedes-Benz was building the future of safety and luxury, there was another story unfolding. A story of raw, unfiltered power. It began in 1967, when two engineers, Hans Werner Aufrecht and Erhard Melcher, left Mercedes to pursue their dream of creating high-performance vehicles. The result was AMG, a name that would become synonymous with speed and precision. In the early days, AMG specialized in racing engines, but everything changed when they took a Mercedes-Benz 300 SEL and transformed it into the Red Pig, a monstrous race car that dominated the track at the 1971 Spa 24 Hours. Imagine a large luxury sedan, its engine growling like a beast, tearing through corners and leaving competitors in its dust. It wasn't just a race, it was a statement. By the 1990s, AMG officially became part of Mercedes-Benz, and the performance arm began crafting some of the most iconic cars in history. Models like the C63 AMG and E63 AMG weren't just vehicles. They were symphonies of power, their engines roaring with unparalleled intensity. Every AMG engine was hand-built by a single engineer who signed their name on it. Walking into the AMG facility in a Falterbach, you'd see craftsmen meticulously assembling engines, each movement precise, each bolt tightened with care. This wasn't mass production, it was artistry. Modern AMG vehicles, like the AMG GT and Project One, continued to push boundaries, blending track performance with everyday usability. For Mercedes-Benz, AMG wasn't just a division, it was the soul of adrenaline. As the 21st century unfolded, Mercedes-Benz found itself at the intersection of technology and tradition. The world no longer demanded just luxurious interiors or powerful engines. It wanted cars to think, connect, and adapt. Mercedes-Benz answered with a vision. Vehicles that felt as intelligent as they were elegant. The introduction of Command in the late 1990s marked the first step into this digital transformation. Picture a sleek control system at the heart of the dashboard, allowing drivers to navigate their world with just a turn of a knob. From radio stations to navigation routes, it brought a sense of control that was almost futuristic. But the real game changer arrived in the form of MBUX, Mercedes-Benz User Experience. Launched in 2018, it wasn't just a touchscreen, it was a personal assistant. Imagine sitting in your car and saying, "Hey Mercedes, it's cold," and the car instantly adjusting the temperature. The voice assistant wasn't robotic. It was conversational, learning your habits and preferences over time. Connectivity didn't stop at the driver. Passengers experienced the magic too. Rear screens, augmented reality navigation overlays, and seamless smartphone integration made every journey feel personal. You could stream music, join a video call, or get real-time updates on your destination, all without leaving the comfort of your seat. Through innovations like Car2X communication, Mercedes-Benz vehicles began talking to each other and the world around them. Imagine driving down a highway and your car warning you of icy roads ahead, thanks to signals from another Mercedes-Benz miles away. For the brand, connectivity wasn't about gadgets. It was about creating a safer, smarter, and more seamless driving experience. There was a time when the idea of Mercedes-Benz crafting off-road vehicles seemed almost unthinkable. But as lifestyles evolved, so did the demands of its customers. The story of Mercedes-Benz SUVs began in the late 1970s with the creation of the G-Class, a vehicle born from rugged terrain and military precision. The Geländewagen, or G-Wagon, wasn't initially designed for luxury. Picture it navigating steep mountains, crossing rivers, and enduring harsh desert climates. Yet over the years, the G-Class transformed into an icon, a symbol of status and power. Celebrities, adventurers, and royalty all embraced its indomitable spirit. But the SUV journey didn't end with the G-Wagon. The introduction of the M-Class in the 1990s marked Mercedes-Benz's first foray into the burgeoning luxury SUV market. With its blend of elegance, safety, and off-road capability, the M-Class set the stage for an entirely new segment. By the 2010s, the SUV lineup expanded to include models like the GLS, GLE, and GLA, catering to families, urban explorers, and thrill seekers alike. Imagine a GLS cruising effortlessly on the highway, its spacious interior cocooning passengers in comfort, or a GLA zipping through city streets, agile and ready for anything. What made Mercedes-Benz SUVs special wasn't just their adaptability, it was the way they balanced utility with unmistakable luxury. You could load up your camping gear, take on a rocky trail, and still arrive at a 5-star hotel in style. These vehicles became extensions of their owners' lifestyles, blending adventure with sophistication. Electric power wasn't new in the automotive world, but for Mercedes-Benz, it marked a new frontier. The journey began with quiet whispers of research in the late 20th century, but by the 2010s, the roar of combustion engines shared the stage with the hum of electric motors. The EQC, launched in 2019, wasn't merely an electric car, it was a statement. Picture its sleek design, gliding silently through the streets, while its interior wrapped passengers in a cocoon of futuristic luxury. This wasn't about compromise. It was about reimagining what a Mercedes could be in a changing world. Before the EQC, the seeds were planted with concepts like the B-Class electric drive. But those early experiments weren't just about building cars. They were about learning. Engineers studied battery efficiency, charging infrastructure, and how to merge sustainability with the Mercedes-Benz promise of excellence. Today, the EQS and EQA stand as flagships of this transformation. Imagine the feeling of sitting behind the wheel of the EQS, the curved hyperscreen stretching across the dashboard, every detail carefully crafted to combine innovation with elegance. The silence of the electric motor wasn't just a lack of noise, it was a new kind of presence, serene and powerful. Mercedes-Benz wasn't simply chasing trends. It was laying the foundation for a future where luxury and sustainability coexisted. Every EV wasn't just an alternative. It was a bold step forward. As the automotive world reckoned with its environmental impact, Mercedes-Benz took a stand. Sustainability wasn't just a responsibility. It became a core part of its identity. The Ambition 2039 initiative was a promise to achieve carbon-neutral production and a completely electrified lineup by 2039. But promises alone weren't enough. Imagine factories powered by renewable energy, recycled materials forming the interiors of cars, and innovations like vegan leather replacing traditional options. Mercedes-Benz also invested heavily in the circular economy, ensuring that materials from end-of-life vehicles could be reused in new models. Picture a Mercedes-Benz driving into the future, with parts that once belonged to its predecessors, forming a seamless cycle of innovation. Then, there was the focus on green energy partnerships, ensuring that every EV owner could charge their car sustainably. From Europe to the Americas, charging networks began to align with the brand's mission, making eco-friendly luxury accessible everywhere. Through initiatives like electric only and sustainable design, Mercedes-Benz wasn't just creating cars for today. It was paving the way for a planet-conscious tomorrow. Imagine a world where cars don't just transport you. They think, react, and adapt to your needs. This was the vision Mercedes-Benz pursued with autonomous driving. It wasn't merely about technology. It was about rethinking the relationship between man and machine. In the late 2010s, the Mercedes-Benz S-Class became a flagship for semi-autonomous capabilities. But before these advancements came years of trials, algorithms tested tirelessly, and countless real-world simulations. The engineers didn't just create software, they gave it intuition. The Drive Pilot system emerged, a groundbreaking Level 3 autonomous driving feature. Picture a car cruising effortlessly on the highway, the driver relaxed, their hands free, yet safety uncompromised. Sensors and cameras created a 360-degree awareness, enabling the car to predict, adapt, and protect. But there was more to the story. Mercedes-Benz envisioned not just cars that drove themselves, but ones that communicated with the world around them. Smart traffic systems, vehicle-to-vehicle communication, and AI learning turned cars into participants in a broader, safer ecosystem. The Mercedes-Benz F015 luxury in motion concept car epitomized this dream. Imagine stepping inside its lounge-like cabin, the seats swiveling to face each other. No steering wheel, no pedals, just a seamless blend of comfort and autonomy. It was more than a concept. It was a glimpse into a world Mercedes was striving to create. Since its earliest days, Mercedes-Benz was synonymous with safety. The brand's obsession with protecting its passengers didn't arise from market demands. It stemmed from a deep-rooted belief in responsibility. In the 1950s, Mercedes pioneered the crumple zone, a revolutionary concept that absorbed impact forces during collisions. Picture a car striking an obstacle, the exterior crumpling intentionally, while the passenger cabin remained untouched, a protective cocoon. The innovations didn't stop there. Seatbelt pretensioners, anti-lock braking systems, ABS, and electronic stability programs, ESP, were introduced, reshaping the automotive safety landscape. Each feature wasn't just an addition, it was an evolution, a lesson learned from past accidents and crash tests. Mercedes-Benz didn't merely test cars in controlled environments. Crash test dummies became silent witnesses to relentless experimentation. Engineers simulated real-world scenarios, studying every possible angle, velocity, and outcome to ensure no stone was left unturned. In modern times, pre-safe technology predicted accidents before they happened, tightening seatbelts, adjusting seats, and even emitting sounds to protect the driver's hearing. Imagine a car sensing danger before you did, preparing to shield you from harm. Safety wasn't a product feature, it was a philosophy. For Mercedes-Benz, Every new model carried the silent promise that lives wouldn't just be transported, they'd be safeguarded. Mercedes-Benz has always been more than an automaker. It's been a curator of beauty. The brand understood that design isn't just about aesthetics, it's about emotion. Every curve, every contour on a Mercedes tells a story of innovation meeting artistry. In the early 20th century, the designs were bold and utilitarian. Cars like the Mercedes 35 HP broke free from traditional carriage forms, presenting an unmistakable identity. But it was during the mid-century that Mercedes-Benz began sculpting icons, like the 300 SL Gullwing. Imagine its upward opening doors, the metallic sheen reflecting the sun, a car that looked as if it belonged more to the future than its own era. But the genius wasn't just in how these cars looked. It was in how they functioned. Designers worked side by side with engineers, ensuring that aerodynamics enhanced performance. The CLS class, often called the first four-door coupe, proved that elegance and utility could coexist. Picture its silhouette slicing through the wind, every detail purposeful yet breathtaking. And as technology advanced, so did Mercedes-Benz interiors. The evolution of the cockpit wasn't just about adding screens. It was about immersing the driver in luxury and functionality. The MBUX, Mercedes-Benz User Experience System, transformed the driving experience. Imagine speaking to your car like a companion, saying, "I'm cold," and watching as the cabin temperature adjusted to your comfort. Design wasn't an afterthought. It was a statement of intent. Mercedes-Benz created cars that didn't just move through the world, they defined it. Motorsport wasn't just a pastime for Mercedes-Benz. It was a proving ground, a battleground, and a laboratory. From the brand's earliest days, racing wasn't about trophies. It was about testing the limits of technology. In 1934, the legend of the Silver Arrows was born. But before they shone, there was a problem. The race car was too heavy to meet the regulations. The solution? Engineers stripped the paint off the car, revealing its raw, silver aluminum body. The result wasn't just lighter, it became iconic. Imagine the roar of those engines on the track, the sleek, unpainted bodies flashing under the sun as the Silver Arrows dominated races across Europe. The rivalry in motorsport defined eras. From the Grand Prix circuits of the 1930s to Formula One, Mercedes-Benz didn't just compete, it conquered. The modern era saw the brand's dominance under Mercedes-AMG Petronas, with drivers like Lewis Hamilton rewriting history books. But racing wasn't just about speed. It was about innovation that translated to road cars. Turbocharged engines, lightweight materials, and braking systems perfected on the track found their way into everyday vehicles. Imagine driving a car built on lessons learned at 200 miles per hour, the thrill of motorsport embedded in its DNA. Mercedes-Benz didn't race to win, it raced to lead. And every podium finish was a step forward for the brand's relentless pursuit of excellence. When you think of raw power, spine-tingling sound, and precision engineering, you think of AMG. What began as a small workshop in Affalterbach, Germany, evolved into Mercedes-Benz's ultimate performance division. But AMG wasn't born in a boardroom. It was born in a garage where two former engineers, Hans Werner Aufrecht and Erhard Melcher, pursued their passion for speed. In the 1970s, AMG's first breakthrough came with the Red Pig, a modified Mercedes 300 SEL 6.8. Imagine this unlikely beast. A luxury sedan tearing through the track at Spa, taking podium finishes and leaving competitors stunned. This wasn't just a victory, it was a declaration that luxury and performance weren't mutually exclusive. When AMG officially joined forces with Mercedes-Benz in the 1990s, the world witnessed the birth of cars that felt like they belonged on racetracks. Models like the C63 AMG and the legendary SLS AMG redefined performance for the modern era. Picture the gullwing doors of the SLS opening, revealing an engine that roared like thunder, propelling you from 0 to 60 in mere seconds. But AMG wasn't only about speed, it was about precision. Every AMG engine was handcrafted by a single technician, bearing their signature, a personal touch that connected man to machine. It was engineering as an art form. Mercedes-AMG didn't just cater to speed enthusiasts, it created an experience. The growl of the exhaust, the thrill of the acceleration, and the connection between driver and car made every journey unforgettable. For Mercedes-Benz, luxury was never just about extravagance. It was about creating a sanctuary. And when the brand decided to revive Maybach in the early 2000s, it wasn't merely resurrecting a name. It was crafting a new definition of opulence. The modern Mercedes Maybach wasn't a car, it was a cocoon of elegance. Imagine stepping inside and being enveloped by buttery soft leather, polished wood panels, and ambient lighting that felt like a private jet had been grounded for your pleasure. Every detail was bespoke, from the champagne flutes in the console to the reclining rear seats that turned the cabin into a first-class suite. But the rebirth of Maybach wasn't only about indulgence, it was about innovation. Features like the Magic Body Control suspension system made the car glide over roads as if floating on air. And the ultra-quiet cabin? It wasn't just a product of good insulation. It was a symphony of engineering, ensuring serenity even at highway speeds. Mercedes-Maybach catered to a clientele that didn't just want luxury, they demanded perfection. From heads of state to music icons, the world's elite chose Maybach because it wasn't just a mode of transport, it was a statement. And yet, it wasn't isolated from the future. With the Maybach EQS SUV, Mercedes brought Maybach into the electric era, proving that sustainability and luxury could walk hand in hand. Maybach wasn't merely revived, it was reimagined. For Mercedes-Benz, speed and luxury have always been important, but safety has been a non-negotiable cornerstone. From the early 1950s, the brand started rethinking how cars could protect their passengers, setting standards the industry would follow for decades. Imagine a car crashing on purpose, not for destruction, but for progress. Mercedes-Benz performed some of the earliest crash tests, watching how vehicles absorbed impacts and where they failed. It wasn't about building unbreakable machines. It was about designing cars that protected human lives. In 1951, the patented crumple zone was born, a revolutionary idea. Picture the front of a car collapsing during a collision, absorbing energy to protect the occupants inside. This wasn't an added feature. It became part of every Mercedes-Benz DNA. And safety wasn't limited to collisions. The anti-lock braking system, ABS, introduced in the late 1970s, transformed the way drivers handled emergencies. Imagine slamming the brakes on a wet road, yet still maintaining control. A feat that became possible because of Mercedes' relentless innovation. Today, features like pre-safe, adaptive cruise control, and lane-keeping assist ensure that safety isn't reactive, it's proactive. Mercedes-Benz cars sense danger before you do. Whether it's a sensor tightening your seatbelt milliseconds before impact, or the car steering itself to avoid a collision, safety has evolved into an invisible co-pilot. For Mercedes-Benz, safety isn't an option, it's a philosophy. Every innovation in this field carries the weight of lives saved, proving that protecting passengers is as important as thrilling them. As the world began shifting toward a greener future, Mercedes-Benz wasn't content to follow. It wanted to lead. The brand embraced electrification, not as a necessity, but as a challenge to redefine what sustainable luxury could look like. The journey began with hybrid models, but the real revolution was the introduction of the EQ series. The EQS sedan, in particular, became a symbol of Mercedes' electric ambitions. Imagine a car that's whisper quiet, gliding through the streets like a ghost, yet packing the power of a performance vehicle under its hood. The design was equally revolutionary. The EQS wasn't merely a car, it was a sculpture of efficiency. Its sleek, seamless body maximized aerodynamics, while its cabin featured a 56-inch hyperscreen, integrating everything from navigation to entertainment in a futuristic display. And yet, sustainability wasn't limited to the vehicles. Mercedes-Benz factories began adopting green production methods, from using renewable energy to reducing waste. The brand's commitment extended beyond its products, aiming for carbon neutrality by 2039. But electrification didn't mean sacrificing the thrill of driving. The Mercedes AMG EQE and EQS models proved that electric cars could still make your heart race. Imagine the instant torque propelling you forward, the silence broken only by the subtle hum of electric motors, a new kind of exhilaration. For Mercedes-Benz, electrification wasn't just a transition, it was a transformation. The brand wasn't leaving behind its legacy, it was adapting it for a world where performance and responsibility could coexist. As the world began its transition to sustainable energy, Mercedes-Benz was determined not just to adapt, but to lead. The EQ series became the embodiment of this vision, a lineup that redefined what electric luxury could be. It started with the EQC, an electric SUV that blended the brand's iconic elegance with cutting-edge battery technology. Imagine the hum of an electric motor replacing the roar of a combustion engine, yet still delivering the unmistakable refinement of a Mercedes-Benz. The EQC wasn't just quiet, it was serene, wrapping its passengers in a cocoon of technology and comfort. Then came the EQS, a car that felt more like a spacecraft. Picture its aerodynamic silhouette gliding silently on the highway, with the MBX hyperscreen spanning the dashboard like a living interface. The cabin wasn't just luxurious, it felt alive, responding to touch, voice, and even gestures. The EQ lineup grew rapidly, from the compact EQA to the robust EQB and the ultra-luxurious EQS SUV. Each model wasn't just a step forward, it was a leap into a cleaner, smarter future. These cars were built on the EVA platform, designed specifically for electric vehicles, ensuring optimal performance and range. Mercedes-Benz's commitment to electrification didn't stop at the cars themselves. The company invested heavily in sustainable manufacturing, using renewable energy in factories and incorporating recyclable materials into its vehicles. The EQ series wasn't just a product, it was a pledge to a greener world. For those who craved adrenaline, Mercedes-AMG became the ultimate expression of power and performance. It began in the late 1960s when Aufrecht, Melcher, and Grossersbach AMG transformed a modest Mercedes sedan into a racing legend. Picture the AMG 300 SEL 6.8, nicknamed the Red Pig, roaring down the track at the 1971 Spa 24 Hours race. Despite its size, it obliterated the competition, establishing AMG as a force to be reckoned with. Over the decades, AMG became synonymous with high-performance Mercedes models. The C63 AMG, with its growling V8, became an icon for enthusiasts, blending raw power with everyday practicality. The SLS AMG, with its gull-wing doors, looked like something out of a dream and drove like one too. Modern AMG cars, like the AMG GT Black Series, push the boundaries of what's possible on four wheels. Imagine hearing the engine's roar, feeling the precision of its handling, and knowing every component was engineered for pure exhilaration. AMG wasn't just about speed, it was about control. Advanced features like 4MATIC Plus all-wheel drive and adaptive suspension systems ensured that these cars could tame their immense power. Even in the electric era, AMG didn't compromise, with models like the EQS AMG delivering blistering acceleration while staying true to the brand's heritage. For Mercedes-AMG, performance wasn't just measured in horsepower. It was about creating machines that thrilled every sense. In 1934, the world of racing was buzzing with excitement. At Nürburgring, one of the toughest tracks in Germany, Mercedes-Benz arrived with their new car, the W25. It was sleek, powerful, and ready to race. But there was a problem. The car weighed 1 kilogram too much to qualify. That night, the team worked under the dim light of their garage, peeling every layer of white paint off the car. By morning, its bare aluminum body gleamed in the sunlight. The car had lost its extra weight and gained a new name, the Silver Arrow. On the track, it was unstoppable. Rudolf Caracciola, one of the best drivers of the time, pushed the W25 to its limits. It sped through corners, roared down the straights, and left every other car far behind. The Silver Arrow wasn't just a car, it was a machine built to win. But this wasn't just about winning races. Every victory showed the world what Mercedes-Benz could do. Their cars weren't just fast, they were works of art, designed with precision and care. As they raced across Europe, the Silver Arrows became legends, and Mercedes-Benz proved they weren't just building cars, they were making history. After World War II, the world was trying to rebuild, and so was Mercedes-Benz. Their factories had been destroyed, but their passion for cars was still alive. They wanted to bring back the Silver Arrows and prove they were still one of the best car makers in the world. In They made their comeback with the 300 SL. This car was unlike anything people had seen before. Its famous gull-wing doors opened upward like wings, and its engine was powerful enough to take on the best racers in the world. At the Mille Miglia, a long and dangerous race through Italy, the 300 SL showed what it could do. Karl Kling and Hans Klenk were driving when a bird crashed into their windshield, shattering the glass. But instead of giving up, they fixed it on the spot with metal bars and kept racing. Their determination helped them finish second, proving that Mercedes-Benz was back in the game. Then, in 1954, they introduced the W196, a car that looked like it came from the future. With its smooth, curvy design, it cut through the air like a knife. Juan Manuel Fangio, one of the greatest drivers of all time, used it to dominate Formula One. Race after race, the Silver Arrows were back on top, faster and better than ever. These cars weren't just about speed. They were about showing the world that Mercedes-Benz could rebuild, innovate, and inspire. The Silver Arrows weren't just cars. They were proof that greatness could rise again. In the 1950s, the world began to see cars not only as machines, but as symbols of ambition and individuality. Mercedes-Benz, still riding the wave of its triumphant return to racing, decided to bring some of that magic to everyday roads. What came next was more than a car. It was a marvel that captured the imagination of an entire generation. The 300 SL Gullwing wasn't born in a quiet workshop. It came from the fiery demands of racing, crafted with a lightweight chassis and a spirit that refused to settle. Its most striking feature? Doors that lifted like wings, as though the car was poised to take flight. The gullwing design wasn't a stylistic choice. It was a necessity. The tubular frame, designed for strength, left no room for traditional doors. So, Mercedes-Benz turned a limitation into something unforgettable. Driving the 300 wasn't just about getting from one place to another. Sliding into the low seat, gripping the thin steering wheel, and hearing the engine roar made drivers feel alive. It became a sensation, not just for its speed, but for its sheer presence. Hollywood stars, businessmen, and dreamers wanted one. Not to show off, but to feel connected to something extraordinary. This car wasn't about breaking records anymore. It was about redefining what cars could mean to people. The 300 SL stood for elegance, adventure, and the belief that innovation should always find its way onto the open road. Amidst all the glamour of racing and sleek road cars, Mercedes-Benz was quietly working on something that would transform everyday driving: the diesel engine. In 1936, the company introduced the 260D, the world's first diesel-powered passenger car. Diesel wasn't glamorous. It wasn't fast or flashy, but it was efficient, reliable, and affordable. Mercedes-Benz saw an opportunity to bring cars to people who valued endurance over speed. For long-distance travelers, taxi drivers, and practical-minded customers, the 260D became a trusted companion. Under the hood, the 260D's engine was built to last, with fewer moving parts than gasoline engines and better fuel economy. It wasn't flashy on the outside either. A simple, functional design meant for people who needed a car they could count on. Yet, even here, there was a touch of brilliance. While other automakers focused on luxury or speed, Mercedes-Benz managed to blend practicality with a hint of refinement. The 260D proved that innovation wasn't just for the racetrack or the wealthy. It was something that could make everyday life a little easier, a little better. This quiet revolution in engineering laid the groundwork for decades of diesel technology, solidifying Mercedes-Benz's reputation as a company that thought not just about where cars could go, but how they could serve those who drove them. In the early 1960s, Mercedes-Benz unveiled something that turned heads in an entirely new way: the W1113 SL series. Known affectionately as the Pagoda, this roadster earned its nickname from the unique shape of its hardtop roof, which curved upward in the center, resembling ancient temples. The Pagoda was not built for racetracks or record books. Instead, it was designed for elegance and comfort. Its engineers and designers wanted drivers to feel a sense of calm while behind the wheel, as if the world slowed down when they drove through it. The interior was crafted with care, simple yet refined, with smooth leather seats and an airy cabin that made you want to take the long way home. Underneath its beauty was a car that was ahead of its time. The Pagoda was one of the first vehicles to feature a rigid passenger cell with crumple zones, prioritizing safety as much as style. Its 6-cylinder engine purred effortlessly, combining power with precision. It wasn't built for flash. It was built for people who valued grace in motion. The Pagoda became a favorite among celebrities and car enthusiasts alike. But for those who owned one, it was more than a car. It was a way of life, a statement that sophistication could be subtle and timeless. As the 1970s arrived, the world was changing. Technology was advancing quickly, and people began to expect more from their cars: comfort, safety, and innovation. Mercedes-Benz responded with the S-Class, a name that would soon become synonymous with luxury and excellence. The S-Class wasn't created to follow trends. It was built to set them. From its debut, it featured pioneering safety features, such as anti-lock brakes and airbags, at a time when these ideas were revolutionary. It showed that luxury wasn't about adding more. It was about doing things better. Step inside an S-Class, and you were greeted with craftsmanship that felt like stepping into another world. The seats cradled you, the controls were placed where they felt most natural, and the silence of the cabin gave you a sense of peace. It was more than transportation. It was an experience. Outside, its sleek design reflected confidence without shouting for attention. Underneath, it housed engines that delivered both power and efficiency, proving that performance and elegance could live side by side. The S-Class became a benchmark for the automotive world, a car that others aspired to match. It wasn't just about creating something new. It was about showing what was possible when no detail was too small to perfect. In the 1960s, two engineers, Hans Werner Aufrecht and Erhard Melcher, decided to take performance to an entirely new level. They began fine-tuning Mercedes-Benz engines, squeezing out more power and agility than anyone thought possible. Their passion led to the creation of AMG, a name that would become a legend in the world of high-performance cars. AMG started as an independent tuner, but their work caught the attention of Mercedes-Benz when their modified 300 SEL 6.8 roared onto the racing scene. At the 1971 Spa 24 Hours, the Red Pig, as it was lovingly called, defied expectations. It wasn't light or sleek. It was a big sedan with a massive engine that dominated the track. This success led to a partnership between Mercedes-Benz and AMG, and later, a full integration of AMG into the Mercedes family. With AMG, Mercedes-Benz proved that luxury and performance didn't have to be separate worlds. Each car tuned by AMG carried a promise: precision engineering, raw power, and an unforgettable driving experience. Whether it was the roar of the engine, the meticulous craftsmanship, or the thrill of acceleration, AMG wasn't about compromises. It was about delivering cars that made your heart race every time you touched the gas pedal. While Mercedes-Benz was redefining luxury, they were also venturing into uncharted territory, literally. In the late 1970s, they introduced the G-Class, a rugged off-road vehicle built to tackle the toughest terrains on Earth. What started as a military project soon became an icon of adventure and versatility. The G-Class wasn't built to be beautiful, but its boxy, utilitarian design quickly became part of its charm. Every edge and line served a purpose: durability, functionality, and simplicity. Underneath, it was a machine that could climb mountains, ford rivers, and handle conditions most cars wouldn't dare face. Yet, even in its ruggedness, the G-Class carried the DNA of Mercedes-Benz. Its interior was surprisingly refined, with comfortable seating and thoughtful touches that made even the wildest expeditions feel civilized. It showed that strength didn't mean sacrificing comfort. Over the years, the G-Class evolved, gaining powerful engines, advanced technology, and a touch of luxury. But it never forgot its roots. To this day, it remains a symbol of resilience and exploration, a vehicle for those who refuse to stay on the beaten path. As the 1980s arrived, Mercedes-Benz sought to redefine its image. The man who took on this challenge was Bruno Sacco, the visionary designer responsible for some of the brand's most iconic shapes. Sacco believed cars should be timeless, that their beauty should endure not just for years, but for decades. His philosophy was simple yet profound. Designs must balance elegance, functionality, and innovation. Under Sacco's guidance, Mercedes cars became more streamlined, ditching the sharp edges of the past for smoother lines and balanced proportions. Each curve and contour served a purpose, giving the cars both an aerodynamic advantage and a graceful presence. One of Sacco's masterpieces was the W124 series, a car that stood as a testament to durability and sophistication. It wasn't flashy, but its restrained elegance made it feel like it belonged to a higher class. Sacco's approach wasn't about following trends, but creating a look that would remain iconic long after trends faded. Through his work, Mercedes-Benz proved that great design wasn't just about appearance. It was about creating a connection, a sense of pride every time someone laid eyes on their car. Safety had always been a cornerstone of Mercedes-Benz, but the 1980s saw the company double down on its efforts to make cars safer than ever before. It wasn't enough to offer luxury or performance. Mercedes wanted to protect its drivers and passengers at all costs. The introduction of the SRS airbag in the 1981 S-Class was a groundbreaking moment. While other manufacturers were still experimenting, Mercedes made it a standard feature, showing the world what was possible when safety became a priority. But airbags were just the beginning. The company also pioneered innovations like ABS, anti-lock braking system, which prevented wheels from locking up during hard braking, and crumple zones, which absorbed energy during collisions to protect the cabin. Safety wasn't treated as a feature. It was woven into the very fabric of Mercedes-Benz's identity. Engineers tested their vehicles rigorously, simulating every possible scenario to ensure the highest standards. They weren't satisfied until their cars offered not just peace of mind, but an undeniable sense of security. Imagine stepping into a car that feels like the future, where every surface, every button, and every sound has been designed to elevate your experience. That's what the S-Class has represented for decades. As the flagship of Mercedes-Benz, the S-Class was more than a car. It was a rolling showcase of innovation, comfort, and performance. In the 1990s, the S-Class began pushing boundaries in ways that felt almost unimaginable. The introduction of features like climate-controlled seats and advanced navigation systems turned the cabin into a sanctuary. Every detail, from the soft leather seats to the whisper-quiet ride, reminded you that this wasn't just about reaching your destination. It was about enjoying every moment of the journey. But the S-Class wasn't only about luxury. It was also a pioneer of technology. Mercedes introduced adaptive cruise control, which allowed the car to sense the traffic ahead and adjust its speed automatically. For passengers, it felt as though the car itself was watching over them, guiding them safely through the world. The S-Class didn't just define luxury, it redefined what people thought cars could be. Every new generation of this model became an event, a moment when the automotive world stopped to see what Mercedes-Benz had dreamed up next. The late 1990s take an unexpected turn. For decades, they had been known for producing large sedans, coupes, and SUVs. But the A-Class was something entirely different, a compact car built for a new generation of drivers. When you first saw the A-Class, it felt like a Mercedes-Benz, but on a smaller scale. Its upright design and compact dimensions made it perfect for navigating crowded city streets. Yet, stepping inside, you still felt the same attention to detail and refinement that the brand was known for. Mercedes didn't compromise on safety or innovation either. The A-Class featured a revolutionary sandwich platform design with the engine tucked beneath the floor to protect passengers in the event of a collision. It wasn't just smart, it was ahead of its time. For young drivers and urban professionals, the A-Class represented freedom. It was accessible yet aspirational, proof that you didn't need to own a flagship model to experience the Mercedes-Benz legacy. Picture a quiet German workshop in the 1960s, where two former Mercedes engineers, Hans Werner Aufrecht and Erhard Melcher, are tweaking engines late into the night. They're driven by one goal: to push performance to its absolute limit. That small workshop eventually became AMG, the performance division that would redefine what a Mercedes-Benz could do. By the 1980s, AMG had transformed into more than just an engineering team. It was a badge of honor. Models like the E55 AMG roared onto the scene, blending luxury with raw, untamed power. Imagine sitting behind the wheel, the deep growl of a handcrafted V8 engine under the hood, feeling every surge of acceleration as the road rushes toward you. But AMG wasn't only about speed. Their philosophy was precision. Every engine was built by a single technician whose name was stamped onto the engine block. It wasn't mass production, it was craftsmanship. The result? Cars that didn't just perform, but connected with the driver, becoming an extension of their spirit. AMG gave Mercedes-Benz a wild side, and for enthusiasts, it was like stepping into another dimension of driving. The late 1990s and early 2000s brought a shift in the automotive world. Families wanted space, adventurers needed versatility, and suddenly, SUVs were everywhere. Mercedes-Benz responded with the M-Class, a luxury SUV that combined rugged capability with elegance. Imagine yourself driving through winding mountain roads, snow gently falling on the windshield as the M-Class tackles the terrain with ease. This wasn't just about getting from point A to point B. It was about going places no sedan could take you, all while wrapped in comfort and style. Safety remained a priority. The M-Class introduced stability control systems that kept drivers in control, even on slippery surfaces. It also set a benchmark for luxury in SUVs, with plush interiors and features like heated seats and panoramic sunroofs. Soon, the GLE, G-Class, and GLS joined the lineup, each catering to a different kind of adventurer. From the iconic boxy design of the G-Class, built to conquer deserts and jungles, to the family-friendly GLS with its 3 rows of seats, Mercedes-Benz created vehicles that redefined what an SUV could be. Picture yourself on a long stretch of highway, the horizon shimmering in the distance. Behind the wheel of an E-Class, you're not just driving, you're gliding. The E-Class has always been the quiet hero of Mercedes-Benz, blending innovation with practicality, delivering cutting-edge features without losing touch with everyday needs. In the 1980s, the E-Class set new standards for mid-sized luxury. Its timeless design, durable engines, and advanced safety features made it a favorite across the globe. You could park it outside a villa or a modest home, and it would look perfectly at ease in either setting. Fast forward to today, and the E-Class remains a symbol of understated elegance. It introduced systems like adaptive cruise control and semi-autonomous driving, ensuring every journey is as stress-free as it is enjoyable. You feel it in the way the cabin wraps around you, the way the suspension absorbs every bump, as if the road itself were smoothing out beneath you. The E-Class is more than a car. It's a promise, reliable, refined, and ready for whatever lies ahead. Imagine walking up to a sleek, silent machine, its surface gleaming in the sunlight. There's no engine rumble, just a quiet hum as it springs to life. The Mercedes EQ line isn't about adapting to change. It's about leading it. The EQC was one of the first electric SUVs from Mercedes-Benz, and it didn't just enter the market, it made an entrance. From its futuristic interior lighting to its whisper-quiet motors, the EQC proved that electric could be luxurious. But Mercedes didn't stop there. They introduced the EQS, a fully electric luxury sedan that reimagined what a flagship vehicle could be. Its aerodynamic design, coupled with advanced technology like the hyperscreen, made it feel like stepping into the future. The EQ line embodies Mercedes' commitment to sustainability without compromising on performance. It's about making electric vehicles aspirational, not just functional. With plans for more models and increased accessibility, Mercedes-Benz is writing the next chapter of its story, one where luxury meets responsibility. Imagine standing on the edge of a vast horizon, where the road disappears into the unknown. That's where Mercedes-Benz is heading, not just embracing the future, but actively shaping it. The brand's visionary roadmap is not only about creating cars, it's about redefining mobility itself. Mercedes-Benz's commitment to sustainability shines at the heart of this vision. By 2030, the company aims for 50% of its vehicles sold to be fully electric or plug-in hybrids, with the goal of becoming entirely carbon neutral by 2039. This isn't just a corporate target, it's a responsibility to the world we live in. Factories are being transformed into green production hubs, powered by renewable energy, where every car leaves a lighter footprint. Take the Ambition 2039 strategy. It's not just about building electric cars, but creating an ecosystem. From sourcing sustainable materials to recycling vehicle components, every step is designed to minimize environmental impact. Mercedes doesn't just want to lead the EV market. It wants to create a future where luxury and sustainability coexist seamlessly. But it's not just the environment driving change. The future of mobility is connected, autonomous, shared, and electric. CASE, as Mercedes calls it. Imagine a car that knows your preferences before you step inside. One that can navigate traffic while you focus on something else. With autonomous driving technology, this vision is already coming to life. As the road stretches ahead, Mercedes-Benz is preparing for a world where cars aren't just machines, but companions. The Vision AVTR, inspired by nature, and the movie Avatar, showcases this philosophy. Its biometric controls and organic design hint at a future where cars connect with drivers on a deeply personal level. Mercedes-Benz isn't content with following trends. It's creating them, ensuring that the journey ahead is as groundbreaking as the journey it's traveled so far. The road ahead isn't bound by asphalt anymore. The essence of Mercedes-Benz, once defined by the rumble of combustion and the gleam of chrome, now stretches into places where wheels never touch the ground. The brand isn't just making cars, it's reshaping movement itself. Step inside a Mercedes-Benz showroom today, and you'll see more than cars. You'll find mobility solutions, electric vans designed for smart cities, energy storage systems that extend beyond vehicles, and AI-driven innovations that merge luxury with technology. The automobile isn't disappearing. It's evolving into something much more. Take the Mercedes-Benz Urban e-Truck, a zero-emission powerhouse reimagining cargo transport. Or the EQV, an electric van built for families, businesses, and the future of shared mobility. But the biggest leap isn't in what Mercedes is making. It's in how people will use it. Ownership is changing. Fewer people dream of owning a car. They dream of access, convenience, and flexibility. That's why Mercedes-Benz is developing mobility as a service. Subscription models, shared fleets, and AI-powered ride solutions. In major cities, you might never need to own a car again. Instead, a Mercedes will arrive when you need it, drive itself to your destination, and disappear when you're done. The roads may change, the wheels may evolve, but the journey, the feeling of motion, of freedom, of possibility, will always be Mercedes-Benz. For decades, cars were mechanical tools. Then, they became digital. Now, they are becoming something more, an extension of you. With AI-driven assistants like MBUX, Mercedes-Benz User Experience, cars are learning, adapting, and responding to their drivers in ways that feel almost human. Consider the Hyperscreen, a sweeping glass panel that stretches across the dashboard. It isn't just an interface, it's intuition brought to life. It reads patterns, predicts your needs, and eliminates distractions. Forget searching for controls. The system knows when you like to lower the windows, which roads you prefer, and even how you sit when you're relaxed. And then there's Drive Pilot. Fully autonomous technology is closer than ever, but Mercedes-Benz is careful, not rushing to remove the driver from the experience, but refining how humans and machines move together. In some models, the car takes over in traffic jams, giving you time to breathe, to think. Yet, when the road opens up, it hands control back, because the joy of driving is something Mercedes will never take away. Beyond the car, the connection deepens. Your Mercedes syncs with your home, your schedule, your world. A Maybach electric sedan doesn't just park itself, it prepares your home's climate before you arrive. A future S-Class doesn't just drive you, it reminds you of an important meeting, adapts its speed for efficiency, and even monitors your health with biometric sensors in the seats. This is the fusion of human and machine, not cold automation, but seamless enhancement. A car that doesn't replace its driver, but understands them. A Mercedes-Benz that isn't just a vehicle, but a companion. Picture the hum of an engine fading into silence. No vibrations, no exhaust, just smooth acceleration and the whisper of tires against the road. Electric cars aren't the future anymore. They are the present. But Mercedes-Benz isn't simply making the switch. It's rewriting the rules. The transformation began years ago, but the real shift came with EQ models, an entirely new breed of electric vehicles built with precision, luxury, and intelligence. The EQS wasn't just another EV. It redefined what an electric flagship could be. With a range that outlasted expectations, aerodynamics that sliced through the air, and a cabin that wrapped its passengers in futuristic comfort, it silenced the skeptics in a way only Mercedes could. But the true essence of this renaissance isn't in a single model. It's in the philosophy. Mercedes-Benz isn't treating electric mobility as a compromise. It isn't chasing trends or cutting corners to meet regulations. It is ensuring that luxury remains untouched, that an electric Mercedes still feels like a Mercedes. Performance stays, craftsmanship evolves, and the soul of driving remains. Look at the Vision EQXX, a prototype that isn't built for show, but for a purpose: to break every limit in efficiency. Over 750 miles on a single charge. That's not wishful thinking. It's a demonstration of what's possible. Every component, from ultra-thin solar panels to energy-dense batteries, serves a singular goal: to prove that range anxiety belongs in the past. Yet, numbers alone don't define a renaissance. The sound, the feel, the experience. Mercedes-Benz engineers have spent years ensuring that the joy of driving never disappears. That's why the upcoming AMG electrics don't settle for instant torque alone. They sound alive. They respond like sports cars. They breathe emotion into every mile. This is not just electrification. This is the rebirth of driving on new terms. And Mercedes-Benz is leading the charge. Stand at the edge of time, where past and future meet. Behind, a trail of innovation, each moment shaped by visionaries who refuse to accept limits. Ahead, an open road, electric, autonomous, boundless. The journey of Mercedes-Benz has never been about reaching a destination. It has always been about moving forward. From the first spark of Carl Benz's motor wagon to the silent power of the EQ series, every chapter has carried the same purpose: to redefine what a car can be. The golden age of internal combustion, the dominance on racetracks, the birth of luxury, the embrace of technology. None of it was ever about following trends. It was about setting them. Now, the world shifts again. A future driven by sustainability, intelligence, and unbreakable ambition. Mercedes-Benz doesn't just step into this new era, it shapes it. And so, the road unfolds once more. The legacy continues. The next chapter isn't written yet, but one thing is certain: Mercedes-Benz will be there, leading the way. Close your eyes. The world is slower, quieter. No honking horns, no engines humming in the distance, only the steady clatter of horse-drawn carriages rolling over cobblestone streets. In this world, where speed belongs to the wind and travel is measured in days, a boy named Carl watches, listens, and dreams. Machines surround him, but they are lifeless without human effort. His father, a locomotive driver, passes down more than knowledge. He passes down wonder. Carl is too young to understand gears and pistons, but he feels their power. He sees the way steam bends iron to its will, how movement can be harnessed and controlled. And in his mind, an idea begins to take shape. Most children spend their days chasing each other through the streets, but Carl is different. He studies the machines his father works with, sketches ideas in the quiet corners of his home, and asks questions no one thinks to ask. How can movement be made faster? How can a machine carry itself without tracks beneath it? He doesn't know the answers yet, but he knows they exist. At 15, he steps into the Polytechnic School in Karlsruhe, the youngest student to walk its halls. In lecture rooms filled with men much older than him, Carl soaks in every lesson. He isn't there to pass time. He is there to learn how to bring his ideas to life. By 19, he has his degree in mechanical engineering. The world outside is waiting, but it isn't ready for what he wants to build. The roads still belong to horses. Engineers focus on steam power, seeing no future beyond railways. But Carl isn't interested in following. He wants to create something that doesn't exist, a machine that doesn't rely on tracks, doesn't stop for rest, doesn't need a horse to pull it forward. His mind races faster than the world moves, and that is his greatest strength and his greatest challenge. The world moves at the pace of hooves and wheels, but Carl Benz sees a future untouched by reins and harnesses. He stands in his small mechanical workshop, surrounded by the scent of oil and metal, his fingers tracing the edges of blueprints scattered across his desk. The idea has lived in his mind for years, but ideas are weightless until they take form. For Carl, this is more than a machine. It's the answer to a question no one else is asking. How do you create movement without relying on external force? Steam engines exist, but they are massive, confined to railways and factories, loud and demanding. What Carl envisions is different. A self-propelled vehicle that is light, efficient, and independent. A machine that belongs to the open roads, not just the rails. The late 1870s bring long hours in the workshop, his hands blackened with grease as he fine-tunes a design no one believes in. The biggest challenge isn't building the vehicle, it's the engine. It must be small enough to fit onto a carriage, yet powerful enough to move it. Most would have abandoned the idea, content with the way things already worked. But Carl doesn't step back from a challenge. He moves through it. He sketches, builds, fails, and repeats. His workshop becomes a battleground between possibility and limitation. The sound of hammers striking metal echoes into the night as he refines each component. The frame is delicate yet strong, the gears meshing together like clockwork, the wheels waiting for their moment. Finally, after years of setbacks and breakthroughs, the first self-propelled automobile stands before him. The Benz patent motor wagon, a fragile-looking tricycle with thin wheels, a single-cylinder four-stroke engine, and a trembling heartbeat of mechanical precision. It isn't fast, it isn't perfect, but it is alive. Carl turns the crank. The machine exhales its first breath, a low, mechanical hum rising into the air. The gears catch, the wheels tremble, and then movement, slow, uncertain, but undeniable. For the first time in human history, a machine is moving forward under its own power on an open road. He watches as his creation lurches ahead, leaving behind more than just tracks on the dirt road. It leaves behind an era. The world doesn't know it yet, but everything has changed. But an invention, no matter how groundbreaking, is nothing without belief. And Carl isn't the only one who believes. Bertha Benz is watching, and she knows exactly what must be done next. A machine without belief is nothing more than a collection of parts. It breathes, it moves, but if no one sees it, does it really exist? Carl Benz has built something revolutionary, yet the world remains silent. Skepticism hangs in the air. Investors hesitate. The streets are still ruled by carriages, and no one asks for what they do not yet understand. But Bertha Benz understands. She has watched Carl fight through years of trial and error, pouring his soul into a vision the world refuses to see. His doubts weigh heavier each day. What if his machine never finds its moment? What if it's destined to remain inside the walls of their workshop, nothing more than a dream on three wheels? She doesn't have time for hesitation. One early August morning in 1888, before the first light breaks over Mannheim, Bertha quietly pushes the motor wagon out of the workshop. Her sons, Eugen and Richard, stand beside her, eyes filled with excitement. There is no permission needed, no grand announcement, only purpose. With a firm pull on the crank, the engine sputters to life. The road ahead is uncertain, but her grip on the tiller is steady. She isn't just taking a drive. She is setting the wheels of history in motion. The journey from Mannheim to Pforzheim is long, 106 kilometers of dust, stone, and uncertainty. The motor wagon coughs and struggles on the uneven roads, the engine protesting against the inclines. Bertha is undeterred. When fuel runs low, she stops at a pharmacy in Wieslach, turning it into the world's first fuel station. When a fuel line clogs, she clears it with a hat pin. When an ignition wire frays, she repairs it with her hairpin. She refuses to turn back. Villagers gather along the roads, staring in disbelief. A carriage without horses? A machine moving on its own? Some whisper that it's the devil's work. Others watch in awe. By the time she reaches Pforzheim, she has proven what Carl could not. The automobile is not an experiment. It is the future. She sends a telegram back to Carl, telling him of her success. The message is simple, but its meaning is profound. The motor wagon works. The world has seen it move, and now there is no turning back. Bertha's journey is more than a test run. It is the birth of an industry, the moment the world wakes up to a new era of transportation. Without her, Carl's invention might have remained hidden, waiting for a world that wasn't ready. But she made them ready. The road between Mannheim and Pforzheim may have been long, but its impact stretches far beyond the horizon. The world can no longer ignore what it has seen. A carriage without horses. A machine that moves of its own will. The whispers turn into discussions, and discussions turn into headlines. The automobile is no longer a curiosity hidden inside Carl Benz's workshop. It is a force waiting to reshape everything. But one journey alone is not enough to change the world. Bertha's triumph gives Carl a reason to push forward. But outside the workshop walls, resistance still lingers. Investors are wary. Many still see the automobile as an impractical novelty, an invention too fragile for real roads, too complex for the common man. Even after Bertha's historic drive, the motor wagon needs refinement. Carl buries himself in the work, tweaking every component, reinforcing what failed, and smoothing what struggled. The demand isn't overwhelming, but it has begun. Orders arrive in small numbers, one from Paris, another from Vienna. The wealthy and the curious want to see if this invention can truly replace the horse. The first customers are not ordinary people, but risk takers, pioneers who sense the winds shifting. They, like Carl and Bertha, see a future in motion. Yet every order presents a new challenge. The motor wagon is unlike anything people have known before. How does one start it? How does one drive it? The very act of operating this machine is a skill no one has ever needed to learn. Carl finds himself not only an inventor, but a teacher, guiding the first drivers into this uncharted world. And then, in 1888, the first public demonstration takes place in Munich. A crowd gathers, drawn by curiosity, skepticism, and the undeniable pull of something revolutionary. Carl steps forward, adjusting his glasses, his fingers tightening around the tiller. The motor wagon sits before them, its engine silent, its potential unproven. Then, with a turn of the crank, the engine rumbles to life. A moment of silence falls over the crowd, then gasps, murmurs, disbelief. The machine moves, not by whip, not by reins, but by fire and precision. It rolls forward, and with each passing second, the doubts begin to fade. The people watch, mesmerized, as Carl guides the motor wagon smoothly across the streets. It does not falter. It does not fail. The demonstration makes its way into newspapers, and soon, beyond Germany's borders, the world begins to take notice. Paris, the heart of European innovation, starts to whisper about this new invention. London eyes it with cautious interest. Across the Atlantic, in America, a young engineer named Henry Ford reads about it and wonders. The age of the automobile has begun. Far from Mannheim, in the town of Cannstatt, another workshop hums with ambition. The air is thick with the scent of oil and burning fuel, the sound of hammering and clanking filling every corner. Inside, a man with piercing eyes and a mind that never rests leans over his workbench. Gottlieb Daimler. Unlike Carl Benz, Daimler does not begin with a car. His focus is different. He is not thinking of replacing the horse, but of something far greater, the very essence of movement itself. To him, the world is changing, and the machines of the future will need power, not just for transportation, but for everything. A compact, high-speed internal combustion engine is what he envisions. Something small, something powerful, something that could fit anywhere. By his side stands Wilhelm Maybach, a mind as sharp as Daimler's, a man who turns ideas into reality with precision. Together, they work in secret, knowing that their creation could redefine not just automobiles, but entire industries. In 1885, inside an ordinary-looking wooden carriage, they place their invention. A tiny engine, no bigger than a man's head, lightweight yet capable of remarkable power for its size. They ignite it, and the carriage trembles to life. Unlike Carl Benz's three-wheeled design, this is a modified horse-drawn carriage. Its shape is familiar, but its soul is something entirely new. The test is short, but the meaning is clear. This is not theory. This is not a dream. It works. But Daimler does not stop at a carriage. His mind stretches beyond the roads. He envisions his engine in boats, in rail cars, even in airships. He is not simply building a vehicle. He is creating a revolution in motion itself. Word spreads, but not all attention is welcome. The police grow suspicious. A rumor spreads through town. Daimler and Maybach are building something dangerous, something that could disturb the peace. One night, the authorities raid the workshop, searching for evidence of wrongdoing. They expect to find illegal machinery, perhaps weapons. Instead, they find an engine, small, harmless-looking, yet capable of rewriting the future. Across Germany, the name Benz is rising. The name Daimler is rising. Two men, two visions, both shaping the same destiny. Yet they do not know each other. Not yet. For now, they are competitors, each carving a path in the wilderness of invention. But the world has a way of bringing such forces together. The roads they are building, separate, distant, are slowly bending toward one another. The moment is approaching when they will no longer be rivals, but allies in a grander vision. The automobile is no longer an idea hidden in workshops. It is now in the streets, in newspapers, in the hands of pioneers who dare to believe. And as the 20th century approaches, the question is no longer if cars will change the world. It is how soon. The year is 1886. In Mannheim, Carl Benz's creation is now being tested in the streets of the city, each revolution of the engine taking it further than anyone had imagined. The world begins to catch wind of a new invention, a car powered by gasoline, not by horses. It's no longer a dream, it's a reality. But this is just the beginning of the journey. In Cannstatt, meanwhile, Gottlieb Daimler and Wilhelm Maybach continue their work with the same intensity. Their engine has proven its capabilities, but Daimler's ambitions are far from limited to just the automobile. He wants his engine to power more than just a vehicle. He wants to reshape the world, taking the technology into planes, boats, and trains. Still, Daimler knows the automobile holds incredible potential, and his drive to bring this potential to life never wanes. As the years pass, the roads become filled with more motorized vehicles. People from all corners of Europe begin to see the future unfolding before them, and with it, the names Benz and Daimler rise as leaders in this revolution. By 1890, Benz had established Benz and Saye, and Daimler and Maybach, after several years of development, formed the company Daimler Motorengesellschaft, DMG, a name that would soon dominate the automotive world. Despite their separate endeavors, both companies have a singular vision. The automobile isn't just a mode of transportation, it's the future. However, it is not until the entrance of Emil Jelinek in 1897 that things truly begin to change. Jelinek, a wealthy businessman and avid fan of speed and luxury, becomes captivated by the idea of these motor cars. He's not interested in simply purchasing them. Jelinek is about creating a brand that embodies excellence, performance, and luxury. A brand that will stand out in the growing world of automobiles. With his influence, the first Mercedes car emerges in 1901. The car is revolutionary. Sleek and powerful, it sets a new standard for the industry. It is not just a machine for getting from point A to point B. It is a symbol of status, of innovation, of a future that once seemed impossible. The world takes notice. As Mercedes-Benz moves through the latter half of the 20th century, it becomes clear that the company is not only a leader in performance, but also in luxury and comfort. The 1980s and 1990s bring about a new era of innovation for Mercedes-Benz, with the company introducing groundbreaking features that revolutionize the industry. In the 1980s, Mercedes-Benz introduces innovations that redefine the idea of luxury. The S-Class becomes the benchmark for luxury sedans, with a focus on safety, comfort, and advanced technology. With features like airbags, anti-lock brakes, and electronic stability control, the S-Class sets a new standard for what a luxury vehicle can be. This model proves that Mercedes-Benz is not just about luxury in the conventional sense. It is about creating an experience, one where the driver and passengers feel cocooned in the utmost safety, comfort, and cutting-edge technology. The 1990s see Mercedes-Benz further solidify its reputation with the launch of the E-Class, a mid-sized luxury car that combines the best of the S-Class with a more accessible price point. The E-Class becomes a symbol of elegance and practicality, offering both luxury and performance in a vehicle that appeals to a wider audience. It quickly becomes one of the brand's best-selling models, continuing the tradition of blending luxury and performance into every vehicle. But Mercedes-Benz does not rest on its laurels. The company continuously pushes the boundaries of automotive technology. The launch of the Mercedes-Benz A-Class in the late 1990s signals the company's commitment to innovation across all market segments, including compact cars. This new direction introduces a fresh perspective on design and engineering for a new generation, proving that Mercedes-Benz is capable of producing vehicles for every need, while still maintaining the hallmark values of quality, luxury, and performance. The merging of traditional luxury with new technologies signals the next chapter for Mercedes-Benz. The brand's commitment to constant innovation, to never resting on past successes, keeps it moving forward. With each new vehicle, Mercedes-Benz challenges the idea of what a luxury car should be, blending cutting-edge technology with the timeless elegance that has come to define the brand. As the 21st century unfolds, the world faces new challenges: climate change, sustainability, and the growing need for cleaner, more efficient transportation. Mercedes-Benz, a brand that has always been synonymous with progress, responds to these challenges by embracing electric mobility. The company realizes that the future of automobiles lies in clean energy, and it sets its sights on developing electric vehicles that offer the same level of luxury, performance, and innovation that the world has come to expect from the brand. In 2016, Mercedes-Benz introduces the EQ brand, signaling the company's commitment to electric vehicles. The EQC, the first fully electric car from Mercedes-Benz, is unveiled to the world in 2018. It is a symbol of the future, combining the brand's commitment to performance with the need for sustainability. The EQC is not just a step forward in terms of technology. It is a bold statement that Mercedes-Benz is not just adapting to the future, it is actively shaping it. Mercedes-Benz continues to push the boundaries of electric mobility. The EQS, the company's flagship electric sedan, enters the market in 2021, and with it comes a new era for the brand. The EQS is not just an electric car, it is a revolution in automotive design. It features cutting-edge technology, such as a 56-inch curved touchscreen display and an electric powertrain that delivers instant torque and seamless acceleration. The EQS proves that electric cars do not have to sacrifice luxury, performance, or style. The future of Mercedes-Benz is electric, and the brand is committed to leading the charge in sustainable mobility. The company's vision for the future includes a world where electric vehicles are the norm, where innovation and sustainability go hand in hand. By 2030, Mercedes-Benz plans to offer a fully electric fleet, with every new model released being part of the EQ family. This commitment to a sustainable future, combined with the brand's legacy of innovation and luxury, ensures that Mercedes-Benz will continue to lead the automotive world for generations to come. With each step forward, Mercedes-Benz redefines what is possible, proving that the road ahead is filled with endless possibilities. And as the electric revolution continues to unfold, Mercedes-Benz is ready to take the wheel, leading the charge into a new era of driving. The road never really ends. It stretches beyond the horizon, disappearing into the unknown, just like the dreams that started it all. From a young boy sketching machines to a company that shaped the way the world moves, Mercedes-Benz has never been about standing still. Now, the engines rest. The journey pauses, but only for a moment, because the road ahead is always waiting. Close your eyes. Let the hum of history fade into the quiet of the night. The stars above have seen every mile, every turn, every victory. They'll be there when the wheels start turning again. Until then, sleep well, dream fast. Good night.